How many of the knives sitting in your drawer right now did you make worse the last time you tried to clean one up? Not lost, not broken, just quietly ruined by good intentions and the wrong tool. I would bet you have at least one. Most men my age do. And the worst part is, you probably felt good about it when you finished, because it was shiny. My name is Walt. I am 71 years old, and I have had somewhere around 9,000 blades pass across my bench since I was 9 years old, standing on a milk crate in my grandfather's shop in Ohio. 34 years as a tool and die maker before I retired, which is a trade where you learn very fast that steel does not forgive a man who is in a hurry. Now I bring old knives back for the people who own them. I do not sell them, I give them back. And today I am going to give you 8 things that most people never learn, ending with the cheapest one of all, the one that has saved more blades than every other trick combined. Here is the part that will bother you. The rust is not your enemy. The sandpaper is. That orange crust on an old carbon blade is doing almost nothing to the value of that knife compared to what a man with an 80 grit belt does to it in about 40 seconds. The rust you can stop. The rust you can even turn into something that protects the blade. The steel you grind away is gone forever, and no amount of money buys it back. You have seen the videos. Everybody has. Hundreds of millions of views on a silent clip where a filthy rusted knife comes out shining like a chrome bumper. No words, just music. What those videos never tell you is what they destroyed to get there. They sanded the maker's stamp clean off the tang. They cooked the edge on a bench grinder and pulled the temper right out of it. They mirror polished a blade that left the factory with a satin finish. They pried off the original bone and glued on some green resin. Beautiful and silent, and the value gone with it. I am not naming anyone. I am telling you the method is a wrecking ball dressed up as a miracle. I know because I swung that wrecking ball for 11 years. I used a bench grinder on carbon steel. I soaked blades in vinegar overnight because somebody told me to. I ran a wire wheel on a drill motor across edges that took a factory a real effort to heat treat. I wiped them down with motor oil out of the can under the workbench, and I thought that made me careful. I think about the knives I ruined more than the ones I saved. There was a case Stockman my uncle carried in the war years, and I took the pattern number right off the tang with a flap disc, thinking I was helping. That knife is worth 1/3 of what it was the morning he handed it to me, and I am the reason. My grandfather told me something I have repeated for 40 years. You can always take more steel off tomorrow. You can never put it back. He said it the day I ground through the edge of a paring knife, trying to fix a chip you could barely see. I was 10. It took me 60 years to fully believe him, and the price of that lesson was a drawer of blades I wish I could hand back. Better than I found them. So here is what I want from you. If you have a knife you inherited and have been afraid to touch, tell me in the comments what it is and what is stamped on the tang. Not an old pocket knife, the actual words on the steel. I read them, and I can usually tell you what you have. And keep that 8th item in the back of your mind while we go, because the last thing I show you costs less than a cup of coffee, and it has walked more knives back from the dead than anything else on this bench. Let's start easy and cheap. The first thing is the wash, and almost nobody does it right because it looks too simple to matter. Before any chemical, before any abrasive, you clean the knife with warm water, a drop of dish soap, and an old toothbrush. That is it. The reason is diagnosis. You cannot tell red rust from black patina, and you cannot see the maker's stamp under 40 years of pocket lint and dried oil. Red rust is iron oxide that has taken on water. It is porous, it is active, and it keeps eating the steel underneath it. Black patina is magnetite. It is stable, it clings, and it actually protects the blade. If you start grinding before you wash, you cannot tell which one you are looking at, and you will strip off the good black trying to kill the bad orange. Work the toothbrush along the blade, get into the nail nick and the base of the tang where the grime packs in hardest, and dry it immediately with a cotton rag, because a wet carbon blade will flash a fresh coat of orange while you stand there looking at it. Cost is about $1 for the soap you already own. Skip this and you go in blind. And a man working blind on a blade he cannot identify is how a $200 knife becomes a $40 knife. The second thing is reading the tang before you touch it with anything rougher than that toothbrush. The tang is the part of the blade that runs back into the handle, and on a folding knife, the flat of it near the pivot is where the maker put everything that matters. The brand, the pattern number, the date code. A case from before 1965 was stamped in carbon steel they called chrome vanadium, and the dots under the name tell you the year. One dot dropped each year through the decade. Once you know what you are holding, you know how to treat it. Carbon steel takes patina and rusts. Stainless, the true sharp that case moved to later, does not behave the same and never will. Get this backwards, and every decision after it is wrong. Hold the tang to a north window and tilt it slowly, because a worn stamp reads better in raking light than under a bulb straight overhead. And here is the hard part. If you sand that stamp even a little, even by accident, you have destroyed the identification and most of the value in one pass, and there is no undo. I have watched a man turn a collectible into a user because he wanted the tang to look shiny. It is the single most expensive mistake on this list, and it costs nothing to avoid. You just have to know it is there before you start. Let me stop here for a second. What I just walked you through, reading a tang and knowing whether you are holding carbon or stainless before you make a single move, is one page of Chapter 4 in a book I wrote called The RESTORER'S Bench. There are 11 more chapters. It runs 158 pages, 12 chapters, and I organized the whole thing not by tool, but by decision, the actual choices you face standing over a blade. It comes with the bench cards you keep by the vise, a safety card, and an index arranged by symptom, so you look up what the knife is doing and it sends you to the page. The point of it is simple. That knife in your drawer tonight, cleaned right, and you knowing exactly what it is and exactly where to stop. The link is in the description and the code is on the screen. This is the night you stop being afraid of that drawer. The third thing is the chemistry, and this is where you save the most steel. Instead of sanding rust off, you dissolve it and convert it, and you never touch the healthy metal. The agent is citric acid. You buy it as a powder, the same thing that goes in home canning for under $1 an ounce. Mix a couple tablespoons in warm water until it looks like weak lemonade. The mechanism is that the citric acid grabs the iron in the rust and lets it go into the solution, and it works far more slowly on the sound steel underneath, so you have a window where the orange lifts and the good metal stays. 20 minutes. Then you check it. Pull the blade, wipe it with the gray pad, and if orange remains, back in for another 10. Not overnight. When you are done, you neutralize it with a rinse of water and a spoonful of baking soda so the acid stops working the second you want it to. Do this by a cracked window with gloves on, because even a mild acid gives off a smell you do not want to stand in. This is the opposite of the vinegar trick, and here is why the vinegar trick is a mistake. Vinegar is acetic acid at 5%, and once it finishes the rust, it keeps right on going into the healthy steel and pits it. People soak a blade overnight in vinegar and wake up to a knife covered in little craters that were never there before. Citric acid watched gives you control the wire wheel, never will. And the Coca-Cola videos? Theater. That is phosphoric acid at about 0.05%, and the rest is sugar water. Good for views, useless on your grandfather's knife. The fourth thing is abrasion, and the rule is you use the least you can get away with. After the citric bath, most of what is left is loose. You do not need a belt sander. You need a gray kitchen scrub pad and a little mineral oil, worked along the length of the blade, never across it. If you want to go further, you step up through sandpaper by hand, wrapped around a flat cork block so you do not dig your fingertips into the low spots, and you start no coarser than 400 grit, which under your thumb feels like a fine driveway. You work up to 1200, which feels like a business card, and you change direction 90 degrees each time you change grit so you can see when the last grit scratches are gone. The reason you go along the blade and by hand is heat and control. Every scratch you put in, you have to take out with the next grit, so a man who starts at 80 grit has dug a canyon he now has to remove the whole rim of. That removed steel is the value. The check me on this is the Canadian Conservation Institute's notes on the care of metal objects, which will tell you the same thing in plainer language than I can. Rush the abrasion and you thin the blade round the edge and blur the grind lines the factory ground in. That is real money, gone in a hurry, and it does not come back. The fifth thing is the edge, and this is where the bench grinder ruins more knives than any other tool in the shop. Heat kills temper. Tempering is the low temperature bake a blade gets after hardening that trades away a little hardness for the toughness that keeps the edge from chipping. You cannot see it, but it is why the knife works, and you can undo it in seconds. If you touch a fine edge to a spinning bench grinder or a wire wheel on a motor, the thin steel at the very edge heats up faster than anything else, and the moment you see any color come up in it, a straw yellow around 400 degrees, a blue up near 550, that spot is now soft and it will never hold an edge again. 400 degrees is hot enough that a drop of water skates across the steel instead of sitting and boiling. You sharpen an old blade by hand on a stone, cool, slow, with a little water or oil, and you keep your fingers near the edge so you feel the heat before the steel does. Find the angle the maker ground, usually somewhere near the thickness of 2 dimes stacked under the spine, and stay on it. If it gets too warm to leave your finger on, you have already gone too fast. Most old knives do not need a reground edge anyway. They need the tired wire edge knocked off and a few dozen passes to bring the fine bite back. And if you go looking for more than that, you are usually removing steel to solve a problem that a strop would have fixed. I'll be straight with you. What fits in 20 minutes here is a sampler. What is written down is the meal. The book runs those 12 chapters by decision in large print because I'm 71 and I know who I am talking to, and every method in it is built around a bench you can put together for under $40 with no power machinery at all. Here is the part I am proudest of. Every single technique carries a line I call Check Me, with a published, dated source next to it. The National Park Service Conserve O-Gram Series, the Canadian Conservation Institute, the ASM Handbooks. So you never have to take my word. You go look. It comes with 60 days to decide it was worth it. No argument from me either way. If you have been watching this thinking about a knife that outlived the man who carried it, that is exactly who I wrote it for. The link sits down in the description under this video, and the square code is on your screen if the phone is closer than the mouse. That knife has waited long enough. The sixth thing is the handle, and the mistake here is water. Bone, stag, and antler are natural material, and they do not get soaked, and they do not get heated. They crack. I have seen a beautiful stag jigged bone handle split down the middle because a man ran it under hot water thinking he was cleaning it. You clean natural handles with mineral oil and a rag, worked in with your thumb and left to sit a day so it soaks into the pores instead of drying them out. Wood handles are the same story, a little oil and patience, never a soak. And celluloid, which is what a lot of handles from before 1950 were made of, is worse than fragile. It breaks down with age and gives off nitrous vapors that rust the very blade it is wrapped around, and the blades stored next to it. That is the real answer to most of the mystery rust collectors find on old knives kept in a box. It was the handle gassing off the whole time. If a handle smells sharp and sour, like a cross between vinegar and camphor, that is celluloid dying, and you store that knife alone, well away from the rest. Cost of the mineral oil is a couple of dollars a bottle, and it lasts years. The seventh thing is the finish, and the point of it is to convert, not to strip. Once the blade is clean, you are not trying to make it look new. You are trying to make it stable. On carbon steel, you can encourage the good black patina to form, and it will protect the blade the way it protected it for the last 60 years. Some men force it with a coat of mustard or a wipe of hot vinegar and let it set to an even gray black, and that even oxide is far more stubborn than the loose orange it replaces. A blade left bright and bare will just start rusting again the first humid week. My wife keeps telling me a cleaned-up knife looks unfinished to her when it goes back dark, and I tell her every time that dark is the armor. What you never do is mirror polish a satin factory finish, because that finish is part of what the knife is, and once it is buffed to a mirror, it never goes back. Convert the surface. Do not erase it. Which brings me to the eighth thing, the one I told you to hold on to. It is the cheapest thing on this entire bench, and it has saved more knives than the citric acid, the stones, and the mineral oil put together. It is a light coat of oil and a place to keep the knife dry. That is the whole secret. A film of mineral oil wiped on with a rag, worked into the pivot on a folder where the moisture always hides first, and the knife stored somewhere the air is not damp, and you have stopped the rust from ever starting. Not the basement where the concrete floor sweats all summer. Not a sealed plastic bag which traps the very moisture you are trying to keep out. A drawer, a wood box, a shelf up off the floor with a little oil on the steel. Every ruined knife I have described today, every ground-off stamp and cooked edge and cracked handle, happened because somebody let a knife rust for 40 years and then panicked and attacked it. If that knife had carried a thin film of oil and lived in a dry drawer instead of a damp basement, none of the damage would have been necessary. It costs pennies. It takes 10 seconds, and nobody sells it hard because there is no money in telling a man to wipe his knife with oil he already owns. The cheapest step is the one that makes all the expensive steps unnecessary. So tell me down below, is there a tool I left off this bench, a step you use that I did not name? Put it in the comments. I read them, and I have learned things from men who have been at this longer than I have. Next time, I am going to take apart the one that scares people most, the folding knife that has seized up solid, and show you how to free a stuck pivot and pin without splitting the handle, a video I am calling Bringing a Frozen Folder Back to Life. Remember the silent video, the rusty blade to the chrome mirror, the $150 restoration kit that holds $10 of material. Beautiful, quiet, and wrong. Save the steel and you save the knife. Grind the steel away and it is gone for good. Wash it first, $1. Read the tang before you touch it, nothing. Citric acid to dissolve the rust, under $1 an ounce. A scrub pad and hand paper, a couple of dollars. A stone for the edge, cool and slow, maybe 15. Mineral oil for the handle, $2. A converted finish, free. And a wipe of oil and a dry drawer, pennies. Call it $20, all in, for a bench that saves a knife instead of destroying it. Against a stamp ground off, a temper cooked out, and a handle cracked in half, none of which come back. That is the whole trade. The rust was never your enemy. The man in a hurry with the wrong tool always was.